Our guest today is Robin Waite. He's the founder of Fearless Business, a business coach, best-selling author, and speaker who helps coaches, consultants, and freelancers confidently charge more and build profitable, product-sized service businesses. And over the last 20 years, Robin has supported thousands of entrepreneurs to create more time, more revenue, and more freedom by challenging conventional thinking around pricing, mindset, and marketing. And inside our conversation, Robin actually did a little coaching with me on my pricing for my Discovering Your Calling Academy. And you'll get to hear that little coaching session, live coaching session that I was not expecting, but I absolutely loved. And if you are an entrepreneur or small business owner, leader, or thinking about becoming one in 2026, get your pen and paper ready because Robin did drop a lot of great nuggets of information on how to just really build that profitable business and create excellence without exhaustion. Welcome to the Discovering Your Calling podcast. I'm your host, Sherry Miter. I'm here to help you unleash your strengths and get clarity on your calling. I believe when you find your purpose in life, fulfillment, joy, and success will follow. If you're ready, pop in those earbuds, hit that follow button, and join me on this journey toward discovering your calling. So welcome, Robin, to the Discovering Your Calling podcast. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. I know we were just talking about how it's taken us a little bit of time and life to get this conversation here, but I know it's going to be worth the wait. And before we dive in, I just want to share a little something with our listeners to give them insights because, as most people know, I am a Clifton Strengths coach and everything I do starts with strengths. So I love when our guests have either done their strengths ahead of time or know their strengths. And it adds just that fun little element to our conversation of like, oh, yeah, that's, this strategic showing up here, or that's activator showing up. So Robin's top 5 are strategic, activator, ideation, communication, and individualization. And when I look at that combination, I see someone who sees a path forward, moves people to action, generates fresh frameworks, communicates them clearly, and tailors the approach to each person. And that totally makes sense with why you have been so effective, Robin, at helping entrepreneurs and business owners, break through fear, breakthrough underpricing. I could see all those things show up in the book you have. And I just want to know, does that feel like an accurate description of who you are and how you work in your coaching practice?
Oh, 100%. I think in my early business career, and I get some nice compliments from people, but I've been in business for 22 years and people often say I don't look old enough to have done it for that long. But but yeah, very much so. The first, I would say, decade of my sort of business life everything felt very complicated, overly complicated. And as I sort of transitioned through my career and learned about coaching, and I realized that just a lot of business owners really struggle with overwhelm and unnecessarily like business frameworks being ever so complex. And so I don't know why, but one day I just started sketching out the ideas as I was learning stuff. I'd sketch it out on see if I challenge myself to put it onto one page, and I'm like, oh well, that framework kind of works, that's really simple. And thankfully I've been able to communicate that to the amazing business owners that I get to work with as well. And one bit that probably, I think the second step in that was about that sort of activation piece. That's very much my adaptable state as well. So when I get faced with a challenge, I don't know why, but I can very clearly focus on what the outcome is, and I go straight to action, which again I think is something which a lot of business owners kind of tend to lean, or people in general lean away from that when they get faced with something new.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so fun to hear that. And a lot of why I'm excited about this conversation is a new kind of phrase that I'm using in this new season is excellence without exhaustion.
Yeah.
And I hear you model that in so many different ways in your work. Not necessarily using those words per se, but pretty darn close to it. And a lot of things you say and teach. So I love that the philosophies here definitely align with that. So I know you have a unique calling story. So I would love to hear, how did you get here? What's your calling story, Robin? Let's start there.
Yeah. Well, so as I said, I've been in business for a while, and I mean, I always had an interest in business generally, right from sort of my teenage years. But I didn't start my first business until 2004, and it was only because the job I was in at the time, the guy who was running it was lovely, really brilliant at sort of designing products and bringing them to market, but just an awful businessman. And so, as a naive 20-year-old, 20-something, I thought I could do a better job than that. Started up my first business, which was a marketing agency, prominently doing sort of web design and branding projects. And we ran that business for 12 years and then very quickly realized why he struggled in business, because it wasn't an easy journey, a straight line as such. But yeah, the shorter version of kind of how I ended up getting to where I'm at now was 12 years into running the agency. We weren't far off, me and my wife Charlotte weren't far off having our second daughter arrive. And we had 2 planned cesareans, and kind of late nights running an agency and pulling all-nighters to get projects over the line and managing all the clients and everything. It was getting very overwhelming. I'm starting to sort of get into my 30s, which I know is still pretty young, but it was a lot. And I think probably I hit my second or third round of burnout, that precise stage where I'm about to have another child sort of arrive. And I had a bit of a breakdown, personal breakdown. And in that sort of moment, realized that the agency wasn't what was fulfilling me. It wasn't easy. It wasn't effortless. It was just felt like I was just pushing jelly up a hill all the time. And I didn't know what I know now back then. So I stepped away from the agency, and thankfully somebody came in and made me an offer to buy it, because I'd created a couple of unique pieces of intellectual property IP, which they liked. So we had lots of clients. And then something interesting happened. So Sophie arrived, got some time out to reflect and kind of figure things out. And then I started getting the urge to want to get back into business again and entrepreneurship. And of course, the first thing that people ask you when you meet them for the first time is, well, what do you do? And I was like, well, nothing. So that intrigued people. And when I shared the story about how I, built the agency and then sold, and it wasn't for a huge sum, but it gave me enough sort of money to take a bit of time out on an earn out. People got very intrigued by that. They wanted to know how they could build and sell a business, or spent time with a lot of freelancers and agency owners. They bribed me with coffee and cake, and then we would chat about their business. And it transpires, I was actually very good at those conversations. They got great results. They enjoyed the conversations and got value from them. And eventually it got to a point where I was kind of so well known in the area for having taking those complex business, ideas and breaking them down, making them really simple. It spawned the first iteration of Fearless Business. Retrained as a coach through 2016, 2017. And I feel so lucky for coaching to have found me in the way that it has, because I literally when I know that I've got sort of a day's coaching, I bounce out of bed like Tigger, and I can't wait. I'm so privileged to get to work with the clients I get to work with. So yeah, that's kind of the backstory.
I love that story. And it's such a great illustration of what happens, one, when you find your calling. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen. We want to have that feeling of bouncing out of bed like Tigger and being excited about what we're doing and know that we're doing it well. And I could definitely hear your strategic ideation communication was probably showing up big time on those coffee talks that you were doing with clients. So yeah, so many pieces in there, but I want to keep moving on.
Sure.
And actually, that might be a good spot, because it sounds like what you were doing with those individuals is really what you do today. And I was just listening to one of your older podcasts about your one-page business plan. And really, it was a postcard, it sounded like.
Yeah.
So talk about how you just have been able to really simplify things, because there are so many coaches out there, so many business strategists out there that just make things so overcomplicated. And I think for most of us, I know at least for myself, if things are way too complicated, I shut down and I don't want to do anything. And I'll find every other thing to do to avoid doing what needs to be done because it feels too complicated. And I feel like that's kind of, again, one of your sweet spots based on your book and just listening to a few of your podcasts is like you really have a way of simplifying things. So give us some strategies behind that. How do you do that? And how would you recommend somebody listening here that maybe they're just now stepping into this entrepreneurial world? And like you shared earlier in the story, it is harder than we think sometimes.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Overthinking won't give you career clarity, but the right questions will. That's why I created the Career Change Quiz to help you understand what season you're actually in. Not what you should do, but what truly makes sense now. In just a few minutes, you'll discover whether it's time to stay the course, realign your role, explore new options, or begin preparing for a more strategic career shift. You'll walk away with clarity, language for what you're sensing, and practical steps to take, no matter which season you're in. Take the quiz at sherrymiterco.com/career quiz and move forward with confidence. That's SHERIMITERCO.com/career quiz.
Well, part of the biggest challenge, I think, which a lot of business owners do is that it's the way that people learn. We learn by copying other people. We see, back in sort of, I don't know, the dark ages, people sort of hammering on stone to make chisels or whatever. And we go, okay, well, that's what we have to do. We have to hammer on stones to make chisels. But the trouble is the world has got so much more complex in since the dawn of the internet age, back in the 1990s and the rapid growth through the early 2000s now, the last couple of decades. And so it's really confusing. But so we see business owners stepping out into the world and doing all of this stuff. And we think that we have to do that too. So you take something like marketing, for example, where most marketing strategists are like, you've got to be everywhere. You've got to be doing all the long form and short form content. You've got to make videos. You've got to write blogs. You've got to do podcasts and email and marketing and ads and all this stuff. And is it any wonder why people, first of all, feel overwhelmed? But the thing that most business owners don't do is they don't stop to question whether that's the right thing for them to do. So I can't remember the turn of phrase which you used there, but it was perfect. It's like, you shouldn't have to force yourself to do stuff in any walk of life, whether it's business or life or anything. If you think about your favorite hobby, if it's taking the dogs for a walk or going out on your bike or going to meet your friends for a coffee, or things like that, you don't need to force yourself to do those things. You have that intrinsic motivation to want to do it. So the first thing I try and tap into is like, what do you have to do? What do you get to do? And what do you want to do? Like, what's the intrinsic motivator behind, why you're doing this thing? And if somebody's sat there, oh God, I just hate doing video. I hate being in front of video. Well, don't do it then. You've got to find something else to do, right? So video works great for me. I was an introvert up until 10 years ago. And then I discovered this wonderful thing called public speaking and YouTube and podcasts. And it gave me this voice all of a sudden, which I hadn't had for 30 years. So those things work for me, but that doesn't work for everybody. So, but also marketing could be like one of 1,000 things. You've got to figure out what are the 1, 2, or 3 things which work for you and narrow it down. It's the same when it comes to pricing as well. The amount of people, when you ask them, well, how did you choose your prices? And they're like, well, I looked at all of the other web designers or the other coaches in my local area or the other dog groomers in my area. And I went for an average. Okay, well, what if all of those dog groomers collectively are underpricing themselves, underselling themselves, so they're potentially losing money? You're about to copy a flawed business model. You didn't pause to your assumption was that they knew what they're doing. They probably didn't. So again, I always recommend look at your competition, see what they're doing, but don't carte blanche copy everything. You've got to figure out what's going to work for you. And that's where the one-page business plan came from. Again, because business owners, when they're first starting out, do stop me, by the way, because I could talk about this stuff all day long, but like a lot of business owners, mum, dad, auntie, sister, brother has said, oh, you'd be really good at like selling Christmas cards, like designing and selling Christmas cards. You'd be really good at going and like doing people's gardens and so we blindly just set out and start running this business with zero plan. And it's like, you mentioned you're potentially going to Florida, you'd never just get into a car and start driving. I mean, we know roughly where Florida is, from going down through past New York and heading south, right? But you would punch the zip code into your sat nav, wouldn't you, before you set off? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you'll broadly end up in Florida. Great, but you won't end up at the specific address where you want to get to. So I'm kind of like, don't even do any marketing first. Let's design a good business model. It's a really simple business model. Then, like, once we've got that sort of working for us, then we can turn on the tap with marketing and bring in some new business. And like, ultimately, the goal, I think, for where I try and take business owners is one where you've got double the revenue but half the clients. And that's that, like,
Mhm.
at a very simple sort of principled level, because then you've got more time to deliver better quality product or service to those clients, which then gets better results, makes you more referable. It's more fun. You get more time back because you're working with fewer clients, and it's better paid because they really value the work which you're doing.
Right, right. Which I want to go a lot deeper into the pricing part in a minute. But I want to just kind of pause here, and a lot of what you just said kind of recap that, because one, like, again, this is why I love taking strengths as the piece of designing something, because again, I'm hearing your individualization show up here and how you do things individually, and why that's, it's so vital to that, to look, why are you doing, just to stop and pause. Why are you even doing that?
Yeah.
And I think that's where our activators in my top 10. Sometimes those of us with activators, sometimes that's a caution we have to have, because we can just start doing something because it sounds like a great idea without pausing to, like, wait, yes, that is a great idea, but is it the right idea for me, for my talents, for my bandwidth, for my age? Because like you said, even every generation, we get tireder, we have less and less energy. It's just, you know, what I did in my 20s as a business owner looks really different than what I'm capable or what I want to do in my 50s and soon to be 60s. It's a wholly different ball game. So there's so many other elements to look at versus just, well, they said how they got successful, so I need to go follow that path. And I love that you really stress that, like, wait, why? Do you have to do that? If it doesn't bring you joy and you're not great at it, stop doing it. There's so many other ways to market today. And
Mm.
that's the great thing. There's so many ways to market, but that is the challenging thing. There's so many ways to market our businesses today.
That's it. And a lot of people don't understand why those shifts and why we're in the state that we are in 2026 as well. And I think it's important to kind of break some of that down. Just so it's kind of three major shifts that have happened over the last 20 years. And I when I first started my business, this is UK statistics. They're loosely replicated in the US and other countries as well. But when I first started my business, there was just under 500,000 registered businesses in the UK. Today, there's 6 million. So there's more than 10 times the number of businesses registered. That was enabled by the second shift, obviously, which is fast internet. It's made it super easy to get online and register a business. Kind of makes sense. So every man, woman, and their dog can have a business now these days. And but what that means is immediately, not just in the UK, but now you're competing against this global marketplace as well. It's not just in your town, maybe half a dozen accountants you're competing against. It's every accountant in the UK and potentially every accountant globally now is, so everybody's fighting for this small piece of, real estate. And then the third shift is obviously then social media. And that came on board, online in the early 2010s. Rapid growth over a decade, where I think when I started my coaching practice, Facebook was barely a thing. And now obviously it's so huge, right? Everybody's on there and everybody's, again, fighting for real estate and ads and, that have to have their voice heard. And it's not just, Facebook, there's dozens of other platforms and ways that you can market your business. And all I see, like the visual kind of way I look at it, is imagine that every business owner has just walked to the edge of the Grand Canyon and they're shouting into the abyss, right? That's basically what marketing is these days. That's what it feels like. So you've got to do something different, but not difficult, that makes you stand out. So something that is sustainable that you can do consistently, because again, I see lots of like marketing chameleons where every 5 minutes they're just chopping and changing, and their offer's different, the price is different, the marketing's different, the branding's different, the website. You're just like, what does this person do? But one of the reasons why I feel I've been so successful is because I've shown up each and every day in the same places with the same consistent message. And it's really important. Some days there are times I'm like, oh God, it's a bit boring. I've got to say the same thing again. I've shared the same stories and I've been on this, lots of podcasts and on lots of stages. But if I get bored of that, I can't help other people. So I have to be like true to that cause and keep on sort of spreading the word. And I think a lot of business owners don't have the staying power to figure out what works and then do it consistently as well.
I love that you said different, but not difficult, right?
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I also feel like too, and I would love your thoughts on this, that a lot of times, and I'm going to say we, because I am guilty of this, switch gears because we don't give something enough time.
Yeah.
We try something and then we do it for 2 weeks. And well, I didn't get a new client after that, or that didn't work. So then we switch gears again, try something else, or we change the marketing a little, we change the message a little bit. How long do you feel like it takes between starting something, figuring out like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to get on podcasts. How long do you feel like it realistically takes before it takes traction and you start seeing results after you start something?
Yeah, there's this little thing called statistical significance. So like paying into your point there, like imagine if a L'Oreal advert came up on the TV and it said, we polled one woman and she said our shampoo was amazing. You'd be like, well, what's this, just one person's opinion, right? So that's why they do these polls with lots of people in it, because they need statistical significance to demonstrate that, something's good. So I have a very simple framework, which is 30, 30, 30. So when you come up with a new marketing strategy, a new offer, a new price, or a new something within your business, and if you this is optimal, but if you can build your own stats around it. But what we're aiming for is over 30 days, pitch the idea to 30 people, and we're looking for a 30% conversion rate. Okay. And the amount of times even my clients know about 30, 30, 30, because I drill it into them, they'll come back to me after like you said, 6 days, having done 3 pitches and maybe got 1 yes. And it's like, nope, sorry, we can't discuss this until you've gone and got all of the data. I can give you some help to optimize what that journey looks like to get those other, over the next 24 days, the other 24 pitches done. But you've got to go and do the work. And that's when you can then come back and sort of go, okay, I've got enough data. Enough people said yes. We need to tweak this bit of it, but now we've got enough data to either say yes, we're going to pursue this strategy, or no, let's not bother taking this any further and come up with something new.
I love that. So the 30, 30, 30, 30,
Yeah.
say
30
it again.
days.
30
Yep.
days.
30 days, 30 conversations or pitches, and we're looking for a 30% conversion rate.
30%.
Yeah.
And that's something else that I noticed that I appreciate in your messages, Robin, is that you don't tell people to look for these like, everybody should be saying yes to you, or, they're realistic numbers. A 30% conversion rate is realistic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's so think of it this way, right? Imagine if you're driving down the highway 70 miles an hour in third gear, and like the rev limiter's bouncing off the red, right? So no matter how hard you push the accelerator down, you can't go any faster. You can't get any more feedback. You can't accelerate. You can't go faster. So where I hear a lot of business owners where they're like, oh yeah, put me in front of the right customer, I can close 80 or 90% of my the prospects. I'm like, that's not because you're a good salesperson. It's likely you're just too cheap and you're stuck on the sales cycle of doom. You have to close everybody in order to make your business work. So what's better is like we change gears and we artificially reduce our rev limiter, our conversion rate, by increasing our prices. So this is one of the first mechanisms we look at. And the idea there is that then if you get better at sales, your conversion rate increases and the rev limiter goes up, and it gives us some feedback. So we can raise our prices still and maybe pull it down, or maybe we've got to introduce some new, follow-on products or something like that to build the customer lifetime value. Or maybe something happens, a war begins or economic climate shifts and our conversion rate starts to drop a little bit. Well, we've still got some feedback there. Maybe we have to adapt and change our market or our product or something else. But then we want to get into that sweet spot of around about 1 in 3 clients. The other way to look at it as well is like, because like who created this rule, right? This stupid unspoken rule that the goal of business is to enroll all of the clients. I mean, like that is stupid, right?
And we don't want all the clients. I just had to let one go. And that was the first time I actually refunded a client by choice. That was the first time I ever refunded a client, period. But it was my choice to this is not aligning. It is not aligning. Yep. This is not going to be worth it. Gave her the option and she took it. It's like, thank you, Jesus. Because we don't want all the clients. Yeah.
That's it. Quite. And it's, taking clients on just for the money, for me, it's like borderline unethical. Like you wouldn't do that because it's not serving that person.
Right.
And you and I, we're experienced. We've been there. We know the cost of that further down the line of taking those sorts of clients on. I get it why a new business business, kind of you're learning all of these things, and it's like, yeah, but everybody says you got to market and sell, and you got to get clients, right? But you shared there, you've got an overwhelming sense of relief now that client's off your books, and you don't have that tax now that you got to pay further down the line. So the goal is actually to build a sustainable, profitable business. And one really simple way to understand that is just supply and demand economics. And imagine it's a bit like a seesaw, right? So we've got demand over here, we've got supply over here. And if our supply, if we go in too cheap, what we're signaling to the market is we've got a high supply. We've got loads of these things that we want to offload, okay? Units of Sherry or Robin's time. So, and so you can see, if you can't control and stimulate more demand, straight away the seesaw's out of balance, and you will never, no matter how cheap you are, you won't be able to sell any more than the amount of demand you've got there, right? So you can have equilibrium, where we're like on a 50-50 close rate, where we've just about got enough demand to, for the supply, the units of capacity that we've got. Or better still, we're going to be more expensive. We're going to signal to the market that we're exclusive. We're going to put a red rope around our business, or a moat, if you like, around our castle, our empire. And we're going to say we're choosy about the clients that we work with, because we want to only work with the best clients where we know we can get the best results. And so you can see that even if supply demand doesn't change, supply comes, we've got more demand now than supply, which means we can sell it for more expensive. What trips a lot of business owners up is that they kind of, again, we see it in other situations, and we think, again, it's the right way to do it. So a good example is like, when Heinz do a 2-for-1 special on baked beans, right? And like your local supermarket can deliver that deal because supermarkets have this thing called latent demand. They have people coming into the shop every day for their staple stuff, their dailies, like bread, milk, cereal, whatever it is. And so people coming into their shop and they're getting their bread and milk, and they look down the beans aisle and there's a special offer on, so they go and fill up the cart with beans, right? Small business owners, we don't have latent demand. We're trying to stimulate demand. So these special offers, attraction offers, 2-for-1s, discount deals, all it's doing is just eroding our profitability. It's not actually bringing those clients into us. So again, it's about, and I would love, if anybody is thinking about starting up a business or in the early stages, at some point you're going to have this conversation with a coach or with your business friends, or in a mastermind, and somebody's going to say you're too cheap, right? The if you don't hear anything else from me today, and there are ways to, there's a few steps you've got to go through, but like one of the simplest, fastest ways to grow your business is to raise your prices. Scary, you'll get that little bit of a the knot in your stomach, oh god, but people are already saying no. We've established that 2/3 of the people you speak to should be saying no. In fact, you should be saying no to them. You should be in control of the no. So we want to be sending more clients away than we're taking on. So raise your prices, send a few more extra clients away. But when you do take a client on, it's going to be just that little bit more profitable. You're buying back a little bit of your freedom again. And frankly, it's also fun. When you get somebody saying yes at a higher price point, I think in business, there aren't many feelings that are better than that.
I love that. I love that. Like you had said in one of the things you shared with me, is someone has to be the most expensive. So why isn't it you?
That's it.
And love the concept. And I'm sure everybody listening is like, yes, I want that. But then, and I call him Fearful Fred, this like negative voice that shows up in our head. But am I worth that? Or is anybody going to pay for that? How do I make it worth? And that's, always my thing. It's like, how can you build a program that's worth what you want to charge? So how do you help somebody work through all those fears and questions they have when you say raise your prices?
Well, I tell you what, Sherry, I don't know if you're up for this, but we could work through like a live example. So do you want to come up with like a concept for a business? It might even be something linked to what you're already doing yourself. And then we can see if we can kind of workshop our way through it.
Sure.
So hit me with a scenario, a
All right.
business.
So I've been thinking, because my core thing is Discovering Your Calling Academy. And right now it's 10 sessions, and it helps people, I call them high achievers, just women who are ready to align what we've been talking about, align their career, their work. So I like entrepreneurs, small business owners, not necessarily corporate, align their work with their natural strengths, with their core values, with the lifestyle they want, with the purpose they feel driven to solve, their mission and the impact they want to make, and helping them do that. And some of my clients, I realize, are actually in the right field. they're just going about it wrong, some of the things we've been talking about. Some do need to shift totally out of a career and into something new. Doesn't really matter. But what I find is when we're done, I give them the promise of clarity, but it's up to them. I kind of kiss them goodbye, go create what we talked about. And most of them don't, because as we know, if you're not in that container. So I'm trying to figure out what's the next step I can package into this one thing to maybe raise the price, but know that I'm going to take them not just from the clarity, but into the creation, into doing the work.
Nice. So do you mind me asking, how much do you currently charge for those 10 sessions?
It's $3,000 right now.
3,000. So you've already got that bit sort of packaged up, so to speak. $3,000 for those 10 sessions. Yeah, put my teeth in 10 sessions. Okay. But what you're saying is, so when you're productizing a service, the first criteria is always the dream outcome. So if they get to the end of that, but then they're not getting that dream outcome, it might be that what they need is, maybe what you could do is you could add in, well, they get 12 months worth of asynchronous support afterwards. So that could be via like WhatsApp voice notes or something like that. Or maybe as a group, you run a monthly top-up call for those who've been through your program, for example. So there could be something which kind of keeps them in the community and have access to you in a way that you can also hold them to account as well, to make sure that they're doing the things for that extended period of time. And you know, is that worth potentially like I would sell it as a whole package. If it requires that to get the outcome, you need to sell both components packaged as one. That would be my thought process. So, okay, good. You're on board with that. So the next thing is then, well, if that's the case, if we're calling this, you know, rather than those initial 10 sessions, maybe this is more like a 12-month program, which essentially you're going to run with them. So they get the intensive bit at the start plus the async support afterwards. Is that worth $6,000 to them?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
Then they're going to get
what about $7,500?
Ooh. Yeah, that's where like okay, $6,000 I was on board, $7,000 is the yeah, I don't know. So
what's interesting is I'll walk you through it, what happened there, just so everybody listening, watching kind of can see what happened then. So you're currently at $3,000, you've got set package 10 sessions. Makes sense. That feels like it's very logical. It feels like you work that out using your intellect. Great. That's what the brain is there for. But then what we started to do was like dare to dream a little bit, to create this like package that is like, you know, the best package in the world ever. And your soul immediately spoke to me and said, actually, that's worth a heck of a lot more. You could feel that, because when I said $6,000, you didn't hesitate. And then where we got to, so you know you're worth that. You know that you can potentially sell that with a bit of extra sort of pushing, training, potentially practice. Remember 30, 30, 30. So you've got to go and pitch this to 30 people now. And then straight away, when I kind of raised the price, and maybe going from 6 to 7.5 was too big a jump, that's when we took you outside of your comfort zone. Okay. There's two types of people. There are some people who they prefer to play just inside the comfort zone. Some people who are like, you know, I'll throw caution to the wind and we'll play outside the comfort zone. Which one are you?
Outside. So
were we like that sort of moment with the $7,500, or were we like, oh, but I can see myself doing it?
Yeah, it was a oof, but ooh, that would be awesome. Like,
okay, great.
It was scary, but it was like, then I could see, you know, I am futuristic. And so, you know, like my strengths, I could see their play. Like, that would be awesome. But ooh, is it worth it? I don't know. You know, all the fears. Like I said, the ooh, but you know, outside, back in, outside, back in. Yeah.
That's it. So again, there's a couple of, so what I tell you what's your kind of thought process? If we now go back from that sort of moment, but back to logic, what's conceptually, what do you find hard about $7,500 and positioning that as an offer?
That's a great question.
What bottlenecks kind of come up for you?
Yeah. Well, I think there's always is it worth it? Is what I'm offering
is it worth it?
That?
Is it worth it? No, I'm asking you, is it worth it?
Oh, is it worth it?
There's only one answer for this, Sherry.
Yes.
Bit more conviction, please.
I was expecting a coaching session today, but I'm loving this. Yes, it could. My honest answer, yes, it could be.
Okay, what's missing then? What's going to make it a heck yes? Like, they would be stupid to turn me down.
Right. That I would have to figure out.
Okay. So there could be some extra value which you've got to stack in there, but you've now got 7,500 reasons. But can you see you need to be sold on this by the feel of
Oh,
it first
100%.
before you
Yes.
take it to the market? So
Right.
it could be something practical and tangible that they need. It could be more so just your belief in yourself. Like I said, that you kind of just need to talk yourself into this over the next 72 hours, have a good chat with yourself in the mirror, and say, yeah, do you know what? I am effing worth it. Heck yes. They're going to get so much value from this if they work with me. And do you know what? If they feel they don't, I would be happy to refund them. Or do you know what? If we get to the end of the 12 months and we're 80% of the way there, they can work with me until they get their result.
Right.
I'm comfortable doing that.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think having the clear promise at the end, like what exactly is that? Like I'd have to get clear because like I said, right now it's clarity at the end.
Yeah. Well,
but it's
define
not
clarity.
creating it.
What is clarity? Define it.
Knowing what you're designed to do in that sense,
How do they know? How will they know that the answer to that? What's a defining moment with that?
It's just the way the process is like they do. Like they have it's there. It's just the way the process I describe is we put a puzzle together and they can see what the puzzle is supposed to look like now.
So 3 modalities: think, feel, and do. So we can think about a concept, we can feel aligned with that concept, but it's not real until we do it. So what I'm thinking is that perhaps for your clients, it's like, yeah, they've got the clarity. So we thought it through. We can feel strength in that clarity, but maybe they need to take the first step in doing the thing that they've got clarity around. And that's when they know for sure that it's the right thing.
Right.
And that's what your promise is.
Right. And there are like little action steps they take in the 10 sessions, but it's not enough to be like, I'm doing it. I'm really doing it. We're testing it out. We test it out and they test things and they have a map, they have the plan, but it isn't like it's not 100% sold. So I could see where at the end of the year, it's like, oh yeah, boom, this is it. So
there will be, that's not 100% like perfect, but there will be a defining moment that you've got to probably add in that is aligned with that dream outcome or result which you're promising, where you can say, yeah, nailed it. Or there's always ways to kind of rationalize it. Like I said, with those guarantees around refunds, or we work together until we get that result, And at this point, you've got there's 7.5K there's 7,500 reasons for you to just pour into this person to help them achieve that, right? You'll figure it out. So part of this is just a bit of faith.
Right. And testing it out. Yeah. And knowing that 1 in 3, you're only looking for the 1 in 3 to say yes.
Yeah. What about if you knew you couldn't fail?
Yeah, I'm chuckling because that's the question I ask my clients all the time. If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? What would you do?
Well, what if I made that happen for you? What if we made it so that you couldn't fail? Do you want to know what that sounds like? Okay. This is a bet. We're going to make an agreement if you're open to it. Okay. Which is you're going to commit to pitching at least 10 people this new offer at 7.5K, right? The reason I know you can't fail is because if you pitch 10 people and all of them say no, I'll pay you $7,500 and become your first client.
Yeah. That's a good, yeah. All right. I'll take you on for that.
Fab. I have one cheeky request though. Okay. If you're like 0 and 5, if you've pitched 5 people and got 5 no's, let's just catch up again. We'll do a bit of like a sales kind of role play and just I'll show you, take you through my sort of sales process. And yeah, I'm trying to kind of edge the odds in my favor a little bit here, swing the odds in my favor, but also I'm swinging them in your favor. If it's a conversion and if it's a confidence and conversion issue, that those are skills that can be trained. Okay.
Right.
It's just you've got to have enough conviction just to take those first few steps, those first 5 pitches, right? I can guarantee you're good at what you do. And that's where I was hoping you would have gone, heck yes, I'm the best, right? You're good at what you do. So don't doubt yourself. And it's just a matter of you've got to now get that statistical significance on your belt.
Right. No, I love that. You're giving me a lot to think about today. And it's so funny. I know as we kind of wrap things up here, Robin, I always share for anybody listening, I always share with my guests, I never know the direction we're going to take on the podcast. And You definitely took this in a unique direction, and I'm so grateful for it because this has been something heavy on my mind of like, how am I going to I know I need to change something and so many ideas, but the clarity one has been a monthly group aspect to it. So thank you for clarifying that for me
Sure.
in the little coaching session here. That was a fun surprise for me this morning that I didn't expect. And now I got to go put my brain to work and I'm high strategic and futuristic. So I was like, okay, my brain needs to go sit with this for a minute and put some things down on paper. But
We
yeah,
take it one
excited
step
about it.
further. You asked me earlier on in the conversation about the sort of the one-page business plan. Okay, so
Mhm.
this is where it kind of now hopefully comes together a little bit, where we've got supply and demand, we've got our pricing starting to come together. But again, if I was to kind of explore that a bit further, one of the questions I'd ask is, well, okay, well, how much revenue would you want to make in a year? And we do some simple maths around that. I'm just going to make hypothetically, so I'm not going to ask you for those details because it gets a bit more personal then. But hypothetically, let's say you wanted to make 150K per year. Now you've got a 7.5K product. You
Mhm.
only need to sell 20 of those a year in order to make your revenue.
Mhm.
That's less than 3 a month.
Right,
There's
right,
2.5 clients a month at
right.
7.5K, and you've hit that revenue goal. So again, that's the simplification process. Let's not get hung up on social media and technology and automation and all this stuff. It's like, what do I need to do in order to get 2.5 clients signed up? How can I sit 8 to 10 consultations each month with dream clients who fit the bill for that, right? So we
Mhm.
just break it right down, make it really simple. And that's kind of the one-page plan.
I love that. I love that. And thank you for just simplifying things today because, again, my new motto is excellence without exhaustion. And 3 clients a month of the right client is totally excellence without exhaustion for me. That's about all I really want to work with.
Mm,
Again, at this stage in my life. And I know when I do that, that's where I give my best to them. And I think for anybody listening, it's the same for them. Like the more, and it is scary. It's a scary thought to raise our prices, for so many different reasons. And that's like tons of conversation happening there. But when we do, and I've seen that just in my, the little increments to get
mm.
to 3,000. I didn't start at 3,000. I worked my way up to that. But I know the higher I charge, the more I love my clients.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, well, I know that you have things you need to get to, but I also know you are very generous with your book offer. And where can people connect with you further, Robin? Where can they follow you and learn more from you? And I think, like I said, you have a little offer for anybody listening today.
Yeah, that's right. So I've got some videos on my YouTube channel where people can jump on with very similar sort of topics to what we've been discussing today, but goes into a bit more depth. So you can just search for me on YouTube and or LinkedIn, Robin Waite, and you'll be able to find me. Please drop me a message as well if anybody needs help. I'm happy to help out and answer questions as well. But yes, I do have a gift. I've got some signed copies of my book, which you can see blurred here in the background, Take Your Shot, which is a story about one of my first coaching clients. There you go, you've got it. So I won't give any spoiler alerts in there, but I've got some signed copies. And if anybody would like a copy of it, just head on over to fearless.biz/TYS for Take Your Shot. And I'll happily sign it, package it up, take it down to Pauline at the post office and ship it to you wherever you are in the world listening.
Yes, and I love your book was so easy to read. I love how you did it in a story format, but there's lessons in there. So it's a great book, easy to read. And I love that you actually mailed it out. It's like, wait, did he really do I know I contacted you. Did you really do that? Like
Yeah,
yeah,
no, it's
yeah.
actually me signing it and posting it. It's really sad. It's one of my greatest pleasures in life, just
Mhm,
knowing that I've had that little touch point with
mhm,
somebody, because we're in this online world, like everything shouldn't be virtual and digital.
mm.
So, whilst I can't meet everybody in person, the least I can do is sign a book and send it to somebody so they get it. It's nothing better than getting a little bit of, a mail, actual real mail in
Fun
the
mail.
post.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
lumpy
absolutely.
mail. Yeah,
I know that was another one of your business things that I'm implementing this year too. So with the book.
nice.
So
Good
thank you.
stuff.
Well, thank you, Robin, again for being a great guest and sharing some great insights today. I know we could talk on and on and on. I have a zillion questions we didn't get to, so we may have to have you back on for another episode. in a few months after I'm up to 7,500 and we can see how that's going. We'll have a follow-up on this one.
There we go. I can tell you all about the espresso machine. There you go. We'll let it land
Okay.
the episode with that one. Spoiler
All
alert
right.
for the next episode.
All right. Sounds good. And thank you to all of our listeners listening in today. Feel free to reach out to myself or Robin with the insights you got from this conversation. Thank you for spending this time with me. My hope is something you heard today inspires you to take action toward discovering your calling. I just have 2 favors to ask of you before you go. 1, if you found value and enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you might hear your review read on a future episode. And 2, can you share this episode with 3 friends who will also enjoy it as much as you did? By doing these things, you will help us grow the podcast to make a bigger impact on the world. And until next week, remember, you've been created to live a life of fulfillment, freedom, purpose, success, and joy. Do you ever feel like you've checked all the boxes of success, but deep down you still wonder, is this really it? You're not alone, and that's exactly why I wrote Discovering Your Calling, the Ambitious Woman's Guide to Finding Fulfillment, Freedom, Impact, and Joy. One reader said, "This book is more than just a career guide. It's a catalyst for transformation." Another called it empowering, insightful, and exactly what ambitious women need. Inside, I'll walk you through 8 powerful phases or waypoints to help you uncover your strengths, reignite your dreams, and finally create a career and life that feels like it was designed for you. Don't keep drifting. Don't keep settling. Your calling is waiting, and this book will show you how to claim it. Grab your copy of Discovering Your Calling today, available now on Amazon.